Hey guys. Alright, so in this video I want to go over the setup that I'm running to farm the rogue exiles on my armor stacker. In the previous video, in the Molten Strike Valdo farmer, there's a couple of things I didn't really talk about. I think I forgot to talk about them. It always happens in videos where there's like something I need to talk about or I want to put in the video and then I end up just kind of forgetting to do it. And I don't really want to write scripts or anything like that because anyways. So basically, there was a lot of people who saw the video and were like, hey man, you've got this really expensive build and how come you're dying on the character? And I guess, yeah, so that build wasn't really made to be tanky, right? So you can make these builds, armor stacker, you can configure it to be a tanky build if you want. You can configure it to do a lot of damage if you want. There's a lot of ways you can kind of set the build up. It's not like, all right, here is the build. Now, you can't, nothing on this is allowed to be changed, right? You can change pretty much everything. You can change the whole tree around. You can swap your gear around, right? There's so many things you can change with the build. That's kind of why I actually really enjoyed playing this build, is because it's so flexible, right? You can just do so many things with it and set it up in many different ways. And yeah, so basically the Molten Strike Valdo farmer was made basically just to have the bare minimum defense. And then after that, everything else was just, pumped into damage, because that's all you really need. It was actually only made to do the 5-minute Valdo maps, basically the Union maps with like a lot of tank mods that are pretty much impossible for any other build because they just don't have enough damage, right? So that was the kind of goal of that build, and it's why it's not super tanky, right? I mean, it's kind of even almost a miracle that you can even do quad ghosted feared on those kind of maps on that kind of build, because they definitely do quite a lot of damage to it, right? So and this build is quite a bit tankier. It's designed to farm the rogue exiles. We've also fit in quite a lot of quant, or not quant, it's now rarity. So we have about 500 rarity on the character, which means we've had to cut a lot of our how would you say, offense. We lost quite a lot of damage to actually get all the quantity, but in the end it's actually turned out pretty good. I'll cover the kind of Atlas setup and the kind of scarabs and all that kind of stuff that I'm using, but I don't really want this video to be a strategy video because this isn't even my strat. I'm just a friend sent me his Atlas and I'm just basically running that. Anyway, so I mainly want this to be around the kind of character, how we're building it, but quickly give a brief overview before we go into a map showcase. Basically, we are not even running the kind of typical armor stacker ring, so we're not even running a synthesized ring. We have a misted ring with basically just a lot of rarity and one other useful stat. And then we also have a misted amulet. This one, usually you would have like +4 to lightning skill gems here, so we've lost quite a bit of damage here to get more rarity. I also did swap my mage blood around for a rarity and grace mage blood, so we're losing some damage here. On the flasks, you can see we have a silver, we've lost the silver, or the, I guess, jade flask it would be here in this case, for a rarity flask, and also one flask suffix for increased evasion is also gone to fit in the rarity. Some other changes I think are, I am using Soul Ascension. Now you can use rare gloves, it doesn't really matter, but I think these are just kind of fun. And I know there's the ring tech, right? For the Soul Eater ring, but that would mean I would lose one of these rarity rings, which I don't really want to do, so that's why I'm not using that. So basically, we've lost quite a lot of damage, and this time around, actually, I'm still using Molten Strike, and we're not even using Nimis, because we don't actually really need it. I guess we can talk about that as we run a map, but basically the way the map works is Nimis is really strong on Molten Strike, single target, because of the returns. All the return projectiles come right back to you. So let's say the guy's here, we hit this guy, the Molten Strike balls come out around here, and then they all return like right around here. So if you're standing here, then all the balls return, and then the return hit this guy. But what happens when we're farming the rogue exiles in a map like Toxic Sewers, like the rogues are going to spawn all over here, like over here. So we're attacking with Molten Strike, and our Ancestral Call hits will hit all these guys, and all the balls spawn around here and do damage. But if all of these even come in return to me, most of the time, I would say like 80% of the time, then the returns aren't really going to do damage, because most, the rogues are like stuck here over here, over here, over here. They're not actually like right up next to you, right? So the returns actually, I mean, it would be good to have them, but then again, I would rather have another rarity ring instead of that. And I think we do enough damage anyways. Alright, if anyone's interested in this stats, I don't really know if people are interested, but I've done around 80 maps or so. I've had 1 mirror drop, 0 Unicorns locks, 3 Mage Bloods, 4 Headhunters, 2 Calandra's Touch, and 5 other tier 0s, one of them being a Squire. So that's the kind of loot that I was getting over around 80 to 90-ish maps or so. I could say I haven't really counted the maps, but that's probably how many I'm doing. Like I said, I don't really want this video to be about the strat and like, oh my god, I'm getting tons of loot, this is the new best strat, but this is just what I'm doing and what kind of items I've dropped, pretty much. Anyways, let's see how this build performs in some of these maps. So the maps we're running are going to be these T16.5 with 100% Deli, and basically just going for pack size, item rarity quantity, and some currency. Pretty much. The Regex will be in the description, and I will cover it a little bit later on in the video, but anyways, let's go jump into the map. Go on the rogue thing here, and this looked good. The rogue, oh, I forgot to look at the bottles. The bottles are, these ones are actually the bad ones. I think those ones were like a 4 or a 5, but generally I stay around 4 and 5. I'm farming the bottles myself, so it's, I really don't like doing it, but they're just way overpriced, you know. So I don't usually count that much. I mean, I'm not like 100% perfect at counting, but we'll just see what happens. Oh, we need to check the mercenary. He looks okay. What about this thing here? I don't know if this is good or not, so I think we'll just leave it as is. And for a lot of the content, we can use the Wine and the Prophet, because we have like more than enough damage for pretty much everything, right? And I'm trying out some stuff with the ores, so hopefully hunt for the bismuth ore pretty much, and because that's supposed to give you more loot pretty much. But yeah, you can see Molten Strike clear, actually not that bad when you have a bunch of extra strikes, and you don't really have a lot of reduced projectile speed, because, you know, that kind of makes the clear worse. Anyways, let's see. Okay, we can take that altar. There's a couple altars that I can't really take now. Pretty much the only one actually I can't take is going to be the one that reduces my cold and lightning, because I actually just don't have enough overcap, and I don't want to go and change my clusters around, so basically that's the reason. Let's run the ritual. Normally I'm actually doing the rituals last, but just to keep the video a little bit shorter, we'll be just running them as we find them. But yeah, pretty much you can see the rogues are just pretty much melting, right? Oh, we got Aegis. Anything else that's good? Great Wolf Talisman. That looks interesting. Alright, let's keep going. Okay, so you can also even take the minus physical damage reduction mod, even though that one is a little bit rippy sometimes. I think depending on the rogues, which rogues you get. And you know, some other damage mods on the map. But it is possible because your endurance charges do kind of counteract that mod. So if you have enough endurance charges, then yeah, you can take that. Okay. Oh, we did get... Oh, it's Verisium. Okay, never mind. I thought we actually got the bismuth, but... Anyways. So, as for the gear, right now it is kind of a little bit scuffed, I think, because I don't really like this... how would you say? The rings I'm using. I would actually rather have a synth ring, because you can get like a mirror ring with like 70 rarity per ring. A little bit less than 120, but then I think you don't really need 500 rarity, right? I think 300-ish is good enough. So if we can get a synth ring with like endurance charge, rarity, and then double rarity on the prefix and suffix, that would probably be the best, because then you don't have to actually go and make these kind of rings, right? And then you also do get 2 more endurance charges, which is going to be pretty big for defense, but it is what it is. And at this point in the league, I doubt anyone's actually going to make those kind of items, so we just kind of have to do, you know, make do with what we have, pretty much. Okay, anything good? And you know what's kind of weird is, so you look at the amount of loot that's dropping, that's showing up on my filter, I mean, it's not a lot, you know. Not a lot of loot. But in other leagues, like in the Frisia event, it was like double that amount, right? So it seems like, you know, you would think that it's not super good loot, but I've actually dropped more T0s and stuff like that in these maps than I did back in Frisia. It's kind of hard to believe, but and I don't even believe it myself sometimes, but I'll show you the numbers of what I've got. Kind of interesting. It's 3 Mage Bloods already, 3 Headhunters, quite a few other T0s, 2 Calandra Rings, 1 Mirror. The mirror count is a lot lower than Frisia, definitely. Because I guess I'm not focused on currency, and it's kind of laggy, but it is what it is. But even though there's like less items dropping, for some reason there is like better quality of items dropping. Maybe it's just because I have more quantity than I did back then. Anyways, let's run the ritual. I still have not found the Defiance of Destiny. I've never found that item. I don't think I've ever dropped one, even though I've dropped like multiple Mage Bloods, Headhunters, and pretty much every other T0. Oh my god, it's so laggy. That is one thing about this strat, is that it's very laggy, especially if you have like a semi-wooden PC. Okay, we got anything good? Nothing good here. Another Great Wolf Talisman. Okay, we don't need that belt, but I think, yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, we can drop this. We don't need it. So build very tanky, because obviously Aegis Aurora is just completely overpowered, and the thing is, for farming rogue exiles, you don't need spell suppression or that kind of stuff. Like, spell suppression is actually pretty bad against rogues, because first of all, I would say probably 90% of the damage that the rogue exiles do, oh, I got Nameless here, is it's going to be attack damage. Right, and most of the damaging mods you get in these kind of maps is going to be attack damage, like physical is extra, right? And so there's not that many spells that are doing a lot of damage. So attack block is pretty much the best defense when it comes to farming rogues. Like, spell suppression isn't really going to save you when there's a bunch of rogues just, you know, attacking you with attacks, right? Alright, let's clean these out here. Hopefully we don't crash the game. I've already crashed once today, so hopefully it doesn't happen again. Alright, let's see. Do we got anything good? No. Alright, so let's go over the character, how we're building it for this farm. So basically, the body armor is, I'm using the Necrotic, although you could probably use the Regalia, because you could see we already have like more than enough DPS. So I might actually swap over to that at some point. And then we have, the helmet is still the same. The sword, we need an RT sword here, and then we want one of these misted rings. You can use, these are kind of hard to make, maybe. So, and if you don't have one of these, then you can go for a Venter's. That's probably the second best option, because that gives you mana reservation efficiency, which means you can drop some points on the tree. Mine has this minus 18 mana cost, which then gets doubled. So my attack skill is actually 18 mana. Without this, it would be like 50 mana. And I wouldn't be able to actually use, you know, only 77 mana. I'd have to go and reserve more. So you want to get rarity and non-channeling skills, or you get rarity and intelligence. Rarity and all res is good. Rarity and fire res if you want some damage. So there's a lot of things you can do, but I think as for like the most useful mod is probably this non-channeling skills mod. Okay, also do have a new amulet. I'm not really sure how important this is, and most of the good loot I did get was at around 300-ish rarity. So I think if you can, you know, push up to 300, that should be fine. If you want to go past that, great, but it's not really needed. I think as long as you can get to 300, you should be fine. Okay, so this is my Aegis. It's got a double block, perfect block implicit. Unfortunately, the ES rolls are kind of bad, but as far as block goes, this is pretty insane. I don't really actually need it, but in some of the other setups I was trying, I did need the block, but now I don't really need it anymore. You can see our block is well over the cap. Okay, so for the gloves, you don't need Soul Ascension. You can go for rare gloves to be a little bit tankier. I'm just trying these out now because they're kind of fun to use, right? So you don't actually need these. And then for the belt, I got a Rarity Grace belt. It's kind of cool. And then I'm using the mirror boots with the +1 endurance, onslaught, and unwavering stance. You can actually use Relicash as well. Although if you are using Relicash, I would suggest you do go for the rare gloves at least, because you're going to be like very low ES. Anyways, so with this setup, you can actually go for the Twilight Regalia and the rare gloves, and you'll get close to like 13, 14, even maybe 15k ES with some good gear. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, so for the flasks, I had to change a couple of things around, mainly to fit in the rarity flask. So I lost my evasion suffix. I still do have this regen suffix here because I do think it's a little bit important to have some regen and not just only rely on your leech and Aegis. It just feels a little bit weird when you're standing in some damage over time. So I have a little bit of that here, and then normally I'm using the same tincture, and then also do have this one, the Wine of the Prophet here, that I use sometimes because it's kind of fun. Let's go over the tree real quick. So the tree is, I might change this. This is kind of like the first version that I'm playing right now. Might swap some things around, but this is the tree. So a couple of things we need for the maps is we need instant leech with to be able to counteract the how would you say, the less leech recovery mod. So if we can run those altars or that map mod, because we have this instant leech and we have a lot of this kind of like increased mana leech and that kind of stuff, so that basically even though we can get over 100% reduced, we will still be leeching pretty much. So that's why I've kept the Ghost Reaver and the instant mana leech. And then after that, for the block, we're basically just doing glancing blows with the versatile combatant. This is a pretty overpowered combo. It's really easy to cap your block and spell block. You only get 65, but this pretty much double dips with glancing blows, so it's extremely easy to get your block. 65 is more than enough, I would say. Okay, and then endurance charges. Right now I'm getting endurance charges from deflection. I don't want to use the unleash potential jewels because those would give me frenzy charges, and there is a alter mod with reduced defenses per frenzy charge, which I don't really want to get. So that's why I went out of my way to kind of not use those jewels, although you can fit them in, but I just don't want to have to bother with frenzies and that kind of stuff. So because I want to click as many altars as I can. Okay, so that is the tree. Let's just see. So I did change some jewels around. We still have a couple of these strength ones, and then I did get some a couple of these with the fire res, all res to kind of overcap my resistance a little bit in case there's the elemental weakness curse. I also did have to change some tattoos to lightning resistance over here just to kind of make up for the lack of resistance, which is quite annoying. And for the most part, most of my clusters are these int and fire res clusters. So if you want to be able to click as many minus lightning and cold altars as you can, then you probably want to go for a lot more of these fire resistance, all resistance clusters instead of the fire resistance int, although you will be getting quite a lot less int, so it's something to think about. If you don't have mirrored clusters, it's pretty easy. You can always just swap the fire res to lightning or cold or whatever, right? And that makes it quite a lot easier. But when you have mirrored clusters, it's a little bit harder to kind of swap things around real quickly because obviously you can't change the clusters. Okay, so that's that. Let's take a look at the Watcher's Eye. So we need the minus 60% reduced damage from critical strikes. That's probably a must. And then after that, Lightning Pen is good. ES on hit is good. Increased energy shield recovery rate is good. ES regen's good. There's a lot of things that are good, but the one that you absolutely need for these rogue maps is you take reduced damage from critical strikes. That's our only source of it. You could also just go and tattoo a whole bunch of your int nodes if you want. I think 60% is enough. Maybe I will actually get quite a few to get to like 80%, but anyways. So that's the tree, guys. Oh, for the rune graphs, I only have the fortress one over here. That's pretty much it. Okay, so for the skills, for Molten Strike, I'm doing Molten Strike. Let's just see. So one thing here is I'm not using the slower projectiles, because actually slower projectiles is actually more damage, single target damage, than Awakened Elemental damage with attacks, but slower proj will make the clear worse, because the balls won't fly out as far, so they won't, the clear will just be worse. So that's why I'm using the Awakened Elemental damage with attacks. And yeah, surprised, no Nimis, the clear is actually pretty good. Okay, so that is pretty much the build, guys. We can take a look at the Pantheons. They are pretty much the same. He's still using Ralakesh and Lunaris. And then for the Mercenary, he is kind of the same, except I gave him Soul Ascension because I don't want him having Culling Strike and killing monsters because he doesn't have Rarity. Aside from that, I think he is pretty much the same. Alright, so let's take a quick look at the Regex. I'm going to give you 4 Regexes that I use. Well, actually, I only use these 2 right now. But this one has Reflect, the Reflect Fizz, Reflect Elemental damage included. You can actually do this mod if you swap your Flask for a Reflect Flask. And then you can also even take the Pantheon too, right? So you can do that, but now I'm just kind of too lazy to swap flasks. So I went to this one. This one doesn't include Reflect. And then there is another one here with block. So monsters block your attacks. And you can actually run that by, you would get rid of this stuff here, and then you put it into one of the attack masteries. Usually I was taking this one, but now you'd have to kind of figure out how to swap it around. But there's a way to actually get the attack mastery for monsters to cannot block your attacks, pretty much. So that's what I was doing before. But now I'm just kind of lazy to, swap around my passive tree, unlearn the points, learn the points for this map, and then I get basically just getting lazy. So I was like, all right, I'm getting rid of Reflect and Block, so I don't have to bother swapping my flask around or swapping my passive tree around, and this is the Regex that I ended up using. And then after that, these Regexes are pretty conservative on the map pack size and the map rarity and that kind of stuff, because a lot of times when you're rolling your maps with Chaos Orbs, maybe we can take a look at one of the maps, get some currency. So a lot of times what happens is, and make sure you do apply the chisels first. So basically what happens is a lot of times you'll be rolling the maps, and then you won't actually hit, it won't show up on the regex if you have a really high pack size and item rarity count, because maybe the map rolled one of the mods you want, but then it only has 4 modifiers or 5 modifiers. Like this one only has 4, right? So even though this one is pretty crazy, so I made it the regex so that basically it shows potentially good maps, and then after that you just have to exalt them. And this one turned out pretty damn good. It's like 65 pack size, 130 rarity, 70 currency. Yeah, so this one's gonna be really good. But yeah, so that's basically how you use the regex. Make sure you're exalting the maps as well. And then at the very end, what I like to do is I like to look for maps that have over 100 rarity, or you can do it manually, I guess, but I check the pack size, the rarity, and put the really, really good ones aside. And then like these ones here, I mean, this one's okay. It's like, 58 pack size, 100 item rarity. These ones I'll just run with the lower, with the rogue bottles that don't have that many rogues. Like if it's like a 3 or 4 giant rogue bottle, then I'll just run that on these kind of worse maps. And then on the good maps, then I'll run like the ones with like tons and tons of rogues in them. Okay, and then as for the Atlas, this is what it looks like. This is what I'm running now. The one thing I'm doing that I'm kind of testing out is the Calgar and Aura stuff, pretty much. If you're not running the Calgar and Aura stuff, then you would probably just run some more Scarab stuff, I guess. Or maybe block a bunch of stuff. Okay, someone's probably going to ask about the MTX. So this is my MTX right now. We got the Demigod Sword, the Paladin Weapon Effect, Divine Judgment Finisher, the Shark Attack Finisher, Heritage Helmet, Holy Eyes, RE8 Halo, the Vanishing Die for the armor, because the Scion default armor looks really good,
Sanctum wings, 2 demigod rings and belt, and then the Chaosborn gloves and Archon of the Atlas boots. And we also do have the golden character effect, and that's pretty much it.
Alright guys, that's going to be it for the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.